Hello everybody and welcome to this 2v2 multiplayer battle in Total War Warhammer. Now I've never actually done a 2v2 on my channel before. Generally speaking, they're so large and cumbersome to edit, it's really hard to allow you guys to follow along with all the different things that are going on. But I've done my best. This battle was just too good to pass up and I had too much fun with it. So I've edited it down into what I think is a pretty cohesive and easy to follow battle. If you like the format, please let me know and I'll try to do more 2v2s. They're a very interesting way to play the game when you're relying on someone else and you have to work together to take down two enemies. So without much more of a delay, let's get straight into the battle. I'm just going to go through the army setups very briefly, just to give you an idea of what we're taking to the field. So I'm playing as the Vampire Counts or Mousillon, the yellow flags, and my ally, the Boston Law, is playing as Argwylon, the green flags. My enemies, Colbert is the Dwarfs and Peach Knuffler is the Empire. So on my left side I got 3 units of Blood Knights and 2 units of Black Knights, anti-infantry and anti-large cavalry, and my front line is made up of just Graveguard and Graveguard with great weapons. So I've got armor-piercing dudes in there and then just meaty infantry on the sides. Behind them I've got some skeleton warriors just to back them up on the flanks if anything goes wrong, and my army is being led by the Red Duke. Now the Red Duke can be attained if you beat the Wood Elves campaign, and that's how you get the Mousillon faction to play as. My ally is taking a Glade Lord, the female variant. She's more skilled with missiles rather than the male variant. And then we've got some extra units of War Dancers, some Wildwood Rangers, some Eternal Guard with shields. So that's kind of a good mix of, you know, spears to beat cav, some regular kind of melee fighters, and then some armor-piercing melee fighters. Some Deepwood Scouts. We've got a Waystalker and a Spellsinger. She's taking the Lore of Beasts with her. And then we've also got a Forest Dragon flying in the air there, and some Hawk Riders on the other side of these trees. Now our armies are very much joined together. He's got a lot of missile units, Glade Guard with Starfire shafts and Shift Shiver shafts, I think. God, it's really hard to pronounce them. Just kind of laced throughout my army. You can see the bulk of it's on the left, but it's all kind of laced interspersed in the middle. Whereas the Dwarfs and Empire are very clean cut and dry. Dwarfs on the far side and Empire on the closest to me. Got the Silver Bullets Regiment Renown unit, the Handgunners, a Steam Tank, KARL FRANZ on Deathclaw, and an Empire Captain on a Pegasus Knight. And then we've got Demigryph Knights. So he's gone for a lot of specialized troops over on this side. And then 2 sneaky units of Empires or Knights of the Blazing Sun in the forest there, which we'll see more of later. So basically the army composition of the Empire is essentially 2 units of crossbowmen on either flank of the handgunners in the center, some units of halberdiers, just 2, 3 units of great swords at the back, some swordsmen, and a light wizard. So he's gone heavy on the wizards. You know, he's got a light wizard, Empire Captain, KARL FRANZ, Steam Tank, so heavy on the kind of unique hero units, I guess. Now, moving over to the Dwarfs, we have 5 units of Longbeards. Now, the rules for this battle were actually to take at least 18 units and no more than 4 of one type of unit, but we'll let him off on this one. He's also got some Ironbreakers out on the right and 2 units of Hammerers at the back, some Iron Drakes, Slayers, and then also some Dwarf Warriors of Dragonfire Pass and a Rune Lord. Now, he's heavy on the runes for this one, Colbert. He's got obviously a Rune Lord and then a Rune Smith over here on his left, and then another Rune Smith over on the Rune Lord's right. So he's got 3 rune units, I guess, all activating their different buffs and runes all throughout the battle. So there's lots of buffs going on for the Dwarfs. They basically constantly have, like, you know, 30 plus 30 armor. We've also got a Thane as well, a melee specialist over there. So that's basically it. The stage is set, so let's begin the battle. Alright, so the battle has begun. Now we're playing on Multiplayer Peak Pass, a map with 2 hills, one on the left and one on the right, equal distance from both of us. And we very much decided that we'd push up onto the right hill, deploy on the right side, and take that hill, and then rotate and see what they were going to do. Now, check out the tactical overview down on the bottom right. Remember, you can do so whenever I'm looking at cinematics and things. This will keep you grounded in the battle the whole time. That never changes, and it's constantly in real time, so you can always judge the flow of battle through that. I'm the yellow, my ally is blue, and the enemy will be red. So we can see some glimmering particle effects there in the distance. That's the Eye of Kurnos kicking into effect. That's the Glade Lord's passive ability that gives you 12% missile damage to units around you. It doesn't obviously really affect me because I don't have any missile units, but you'll see that going on and off quite regularly throughout the battle as the Glade Lord moves around. So obviously good to keep him or her back with the missile units for the most part. So you can just see everyone's just pushing up into the hill. The armies are kind of rotating. I'm actually rotating the tactical overview just a little bit to keep you orientated the same way the army is facing, but it doesn't change too much. And some of their units were a little bit hidden, and that's why those symbols keep popping up. But we're just very much pushing up on this hill. Everything's going pretty smooth. They made a little bit of an attempt at it, but then they backed away. And the Dwarfs, because we're so far over on the right, the Dwarfs have got a long run to kind of catch up and rotate their lines to match Empire's, because currently we're going heavy on the Empire, and if we can kind of get that attack going quickly, we can kind of take them out one by one almost, if you know what I mean. Now the Empire have begun firing on me with some of their crossbow men. Some of my Graveguard are taking hits, and some of the Wood Elves units are firing back, but not really doing much. They're hitting the hill, so it's not great. But we're just kind of forming up. I don't want to move too far ahead of my ally, because obviously I'll leave his archers exposed. Now we're getting hit with the steam tank as well, so a lot of fire is coming under us now as we get closer and closer. The handgunners as well starting to fire on our Graveguard on the right, and I'm actually pushing all my cavalry from the bottom around to the right. Now KARL FRANZ got some particle effects going off in the distance. Let's just hold the line, pretty standard stuff. But then he actually does use the light wizard to use Net of Amentok, just to freeze us in place. Now I would argue that this was misused, because yes, he's firing on me, but only with a couple of units, and then the steam tank as well. Now I judged it after watching it back. I don't think they were ever really hit when this came into effect, just a couple of shots here and there. So the Net of Amentok really just slowed me down for absolutely no reason, so I think it was a bad use of it very early on. I would have saved my Winter Magic for much later. But I think, it did get a few hits off, but then, we were right back on the go again. So all my cavalry, if you check the tactical overview, is shifted around to the right side, and I'm pushing them all the way out to the right, because I can see that he's got a vulnerability at that side, and got some cavalry at that side, whereas the dwarfs don't really want to be on their left right now, because I won't have any infantry support on that side for a while, so I've just shifted all the way over. Now interestingly, his Knights of the Blazing Sun have run all the way down that forest and are pushing around behind me, and we'll get to that a bit later. But that's where they've gone. I never noticed them. My cavalry never even noticed them. Now the front lines are preparing to meet. The Empire just used fast protection, giving a very quick and very skillfully placed 36 melee defense on their infantry there, their great swords. And I'm just doing a bit of a cheeky wind of death down on the halberdiers here. As I'm moving my cavalry all the way around behind them, I thought it would be good to minimize the halberdiers, and they were just lined up too perfectly for it, for my Red Duke not to use that ability. And then as soon as the Graveguard touched them, they begin to rat. So it was clearly very effective, did quite well. And the Demigryph Knights charged straight into my Blood Knights, which is going to be tricky for them to beat. And I'm trying to split up my cavalry and run around these halberdier units that are left, because they're going to cause me problems. Now KARL FRANZ is coming in with the Reichlin Runefang as his weapon at the moment. I don't think he's activating it right now, but he does, numerous times throughout the battle. But basically, yeah, we're doing very good against those halberdiers, and I've got my skeleton warriors and my Graveguard pushing into them, and that's just routed a unit, freeing up some Graveguard. Now the dwarfs are still pushing around, just rotating slowly on the left hand side, you can see, and I'm actually losing a unit there in the center. It's starting to rout or to crumble. So things are going pretty well on the right, though. I'd say we are pushing, making a big push over on the right, and Wildwood Rangers are coming in to help out those Graveguard that are in trouble. Now I've got my Blood Knights pushing into the steam tank, trying to hit them with all my anti-large units that I can, or just keep it bogged down constantly, so stop it from firing, just keep my unit on it. And then my Black Knights are charging in there. I activated the Curse of Years around those two Greatsword units that were pushing back my unit. My ally brought in two Wood Elves infantry units to kind of help out my Red Duke as well. So we're totally mitigating their attack at the moment right now, which I think was a well-placed spell. And then we get another Net of Amentok. This one I think was actually overcast, so it lasted a very long time. And the dwarves were able to just constantly throw up their blasting charges and just damage us and hit us as much as they can. But I still argue that that Net of Amentok wasn't very well used or placed, just because it didn't seem like it was needed there. Now, it was a bit off screen, but my ally has done the transformation of Kadon. There's now a Manticore on the battlefield. The reason I don't show it is because it was actually just very badly used. It never actually really did anything, so it kind of came and went almost, but it was used. Now here's the Knights of the Blazing Sun. The whole time they were just lurking around the back of the map in the forest, and we didn't know it. And the two units of Deepwood Scouts that for some reason, again, my ally decided to keep in the woods. I'm not too sure why. This was all happening at the same time. This is why I've removed the radar, so it's actually a little bit of overlap there, but this just happened while this scene is going on. So you'll notice now in the very bottom of the tactical overview that cavalry is now running away and meeting back up with the main line. So they just basically, they had a little rear charge, killed a couple of archer units, and then got away with it essentially before we could do anything. So the Deepwood Scouts that my ally had, pretty much gone now. So it's a total waste for them. Now if Skeleton Warriors have kind of got away from me, and they're pushing all the way up into the main line, and the tactical overview is rotating now to compensate for it, just to get everything on screen and to show you which way we're facing at the moment. So to give you a synopsis of what's happening, the right is kind of going very well. We've got a steam tank bogged down over there. The left still hasn't really engaged anything, although they did flank into us and destroy us. Now my cavalry is mopping up everything on the right hand side, which is great. The crossbow units are dead. Handgunners are pretty much all but dead. And they started to rout. KARL FRANZ is routing now with my Blood Knights chasing him. And a very skillful Empire move was having the Empire captain on the Pegasus Knight chase after the Blood Knights. You can see it in the distance there, and he comes in for a landing to help. So I begin my assault on the Dwarven right side, just pushing into them with my infantry, my Black Knight cavalry, my infantry cavalry. And there's an exchange of fire going on constantly here with the blasting charges and the Starfire shafts to reduce their armor. But they keep activating you know, armor buffs and things like that with their runesmiths, and their Iron Drakes are just toasting us alive at the moment. So they're really still holding their own, even though a couple units are getting whittled down for the Dwarves, which is doing quite well. You can see this unit of Iron Breakers here just getting completely minced, and the Iron Drakes just blowing over their heads, just keeping everything at bay, I suppose. So the steam tank now is pretty much about to die. We're just trying to charge one more time into it, because it's really bogging down my units out here. It's getting a lot of kills. It's got about 80 kills at the moment. And I just want to free it up so I can start pushing everything back around to the right and helping out my allies. Now my cavalry got caught. Once I did that charge, they got kind of bogged down by some Slayers. And then that Blazing Sun cavalry had worked its way all the way back around and started chasing them down. And I couldn't get away from them. It was a bit of bad microwing from me. I left them kind of in there a bit too long. And I tried to get my Blood Knights to save them, but the Demigryph Knights were still hounding me down. So I've essentially at this point lost all my cavalry. That was a bad move from me. I kind of left them after that charge and they got bogged down. Now we've activated Invocation of Nehek. We're buffing up all of our soldiers at the moment. We're regenerating after all those blasting charges came down. It was a overcasted version of it, so it lasts for a long time. I think we've actually got completely full health units now by the time it's done, almost. And we're going in for one charge now, not last charge, we're going in for a big charge against the Dwarfs, and the two main lines are finally meeting. So it's all, Empire is pretty much done with, and we've still got the bulk of our Wood Elves and our Vampire counts together, hopefully. I've lost all my cavalry though, and now we're just pushing in. So the Rune Lords and the Runesmiths are just activating everything they've got. They're all casting their Rune of Wrath and Ruin as well, just damaging units left, right and center where they can. You can see the Waystalker is firing his arrows, and the Glade Lord as well, firing the Arrow of Kurnos across the battlefield into idle units. The Forest Dragon not really doing much, just kind of sitting around there. I start using the Red Duke's Raised Dead. So I'm trying to raise dead behind the Hammerers, just to give them something to keep them busy, because right now they're fighting Skeleton Warriors, which isn't going to go well for me. And you can see on the map that my ally kind of has two units out to the left, not really doing anything. So there's a lot of kind of forgetting about your units going on, a lot of bad microing essentially, while this main battle is going off in the center. It's not going well for me. Now this is an amazing move. The Amber Spear, overcast, straight into KARL FRANZ, killing him, who was bogged down again by Blood Knights after he returned to the battlefield. So that was an amazing shot. I removed the tactical overview for that because it happened a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to show it that it did happen, because it was a pretty amazing kill. So we've got everything going on in the center now. The Forest Dragon has landed amongst the men. By the way, the Manticore just died. Got 5 kills and it died. He landed it. My ally landed it in the Knights of the Blazing Sun, which is just a bad move, and they didn't do anything, and he just killed him. And you can just see the amount of augments going off, just constantly, just hitting those runes constantly, over and over and over again. And now the Empire Cavalry has the run of the field, kind of crashing into the back of my Graveguard on the right side. I'm dwindling in numbers now. I'm very, very low. The Red Duke is in there in the middle of the fighting. The Dwarves have just proven very, very difficult to break, even though it seems like we had more men overall. But I guess our men were weaker from the Empire fight. Now, allies using the Flock of Doom, just kind of blanketly lowering the health of everybody, causing direct damage to everybody. Again, he used it on the right, which seemed like a pretty good place to use it. It's a decent place to use it. I would have used it in the center where the bulk of our troops are, where the bulk of the fighting is going on. It just seems like you get more casualties that way. The Empire Captain and the Spellsinger are fighting each other now as well at the same time. It's just nice little fights going on. This is the problem with battles this big. There's just so much shit going on. If you pause the screen now, look at the amount of augments, effects, particle effects, arrows, all the different fire that's going off. We've got zombies coming in left, right, and center, just constantly raising them to try and take the pressure off the enemy. The cool thing with these zombies now is that they don't break. They just fight until they die. But they are weak as shit. They're really not doing anything, and they only cost 2 winds of magic to use. Now, my biggest failing in this battle, I have failed to mention even at this point, but I have a unit very, 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 very far away, a Graveguard unit that was chasing an enemy has decided to not, come back for a long time. And then my allies used the Prey of Anathrina. His Spellsinger was getting bogged down with the Blazing Sun cavalry again. But unfortunately she's routing, and she's routing through a unit that's frozen and she can't move. The Empire Captain is he was running away, but then he regained control, and now the Forest Dragon is on a mission to take him down. And he's going to come in for that big blob of spears over on the left, which is an interesting choice to go for, considering they're just spear units. I wouldn't personally send cavalry in against them. To be honest, and the Forest Dragon looked like it did a lot of splash damage to its own units. Don't know if it was a good idea or not sending it in to chase it. So yeah, we can see the Rune Lord has a nice solid bulk of hammers, slayers, a bit of everything around it. The dwarves are very largely intact, and the Red Duke is having a hard time of it, fighting everybody in there at the moment. And again, they're just constantly doing their armor buffs. They're overlapping their armor buffs, which doesn't actually stack, so it's not too bad, but they are just covering the battlefield with that plus 30 armor and the damage resistance spells. So we've got Wildwood Rangers coming in again just to fight the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass. Bit of a lackluster charge, I won't lie, but it's a last ditch effort to try and do something out there. The Knights of the Blazing Sun, it's very hard to see, but in the tactical overview they're down in the bottom left. They're after taking over a bit more. My Red Duke is running away, and he's got all the Rune Lord and the Thane just chasing him. He just took off his head. So that's it, Red Duke is down. I'm pretty much out. All I've got left is a couple zombie units just chilling around. I do have my Graveguard unit though out in the distance, and believe me, it is coming back to do some epic damage. So the Forest Dragon, it's kind of, the writing is a bit on the wall now. Things haven't gone our way. And analysing the battle, I'm not exactly too sure why. I think it's just a combination of these really good Dwarven buffs, and that, the blasting charges did whittle us down a bit. And we weren't really, the Wood Elves weren't really firing on them as much as I would have hoped. And I lost my cavalry, which was my biggest advantage against the Dwarves. So Flock of Dooms are going off, we're doing these last ditch efforts just to try and weaken them. Again, there's way more units here. I don't know why the Flock of Doom wasn't carried out there. And then I've got zombie units coming in to fight the Dwarf Warriors and the Slayers at the back here. Oh, it's just Slayers actually, yeah. And the Waystalker and the Spellsinger are still going strong. So it's just a bit of a mud pit at the moment. You can see my Graveguard unit is finally coming back into the battle. Here it is. It's been running since the beginning, and they're getting just absolutely melted by some Iron Drakes. And because my obviously Vampire Count Lord is dead, they don't even get into contact with the dwarves. They didn't even look at them. The dwarves just walked the other way. It's like, nah mate, ain't happening. And they just fell over and died. Pretty embarrassing. But good times overall. So all we're left with now, the Wood Elves have all routed. They're all gone. It's just zombies left. The Slayers are fighting them, just clipping off their heads. I don't think these zombies got any kills either. It's pretty embarrassing. Pretty embarrassing, but couldn't end the battle until it was over. And they're just getting absolutely decapitated, just completely minced out of it. And that's it. So it was really very much, I would say, a Dwarven victory more so than a Dwarven and Empire victory. The Empire were largely gone. Only 200 of them remained. Same with Wood Elves actually. But yeah, the Dwarves really held strong, only taking 700 losses. I put my cavalry to pretty good use, even though they did end up dying. And yeah, that's about it for the battle. So an excellent game. During the time I had some really epic music going, and it was a whole load of fun. This here is another 2v2 I had, which is just absolute decimation. It was pretty fun to watch. I just took mostly artillery, and my ally just kind of protected me. And we just lit up the Bretonnians and the enemy dwarfs as they came towards us. Anyway guys, so if you like this battle, if you're able to follow along, I know it was just me basically talking at you for a while. Let me know, and I'll try to do some more of them. It was a huge amount of fun to play, and if you want to catch it live or be on these battles, just come over to twitch.tv/DarrenTotalWar. On Wednesdays is when I do multiplayer, and we might be able to have a battle together. Alright, so thanks very much for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one.